funny enough, it's a word used in Genshin Impact, so people Googling shit about the fucking game will probably be brought to this.
That would be fun.
You bring in the weebs.
Okay, so let's start off first with the obvious disclaimer. Neither one of us is very intelligent, and we're probably going to get a lot of this wrong. Agreed?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
I'm very stupid. I'm trying, though. I'm trying my hardest.
Well, trying and doing are
I'm
two
trying.
different things, unfortunately. So,
Expect some things that aren't entirely true, maybe some bullshit, but laced with little bits of truth.
that
This
aside,
will be fun.
let's talk about the Irminsul. So, the Saxons, around 770 AD, had the giant stick. The giant stick was estimated to be roughly between 10 and 22 feet tall, which means that these little itty-bitty people thought that maybe, if you just estimate on like the middle end of things, about a 16-foot tall stick was the thing that held the sky up and kept the world in place, which is insane. Let me grab that image of the guy standing there, because that just blows my mind.
This is literally their Tower of Babel. It touched the sky and it brought them closer to their gods.
It only touched the sky if they were standing there or laying there on the ground. That roughly is about the same size as the stick that they worshipped as if it were one of their gods. The Saxons were incredibly stupid people, and it doesn't surprise me at all.
Hobbit.
Hobbit, they were like 5'3" to like 5'6". That's really not that short. Like by my standards.
6 fucking feet. Charlotte was 6 fucking feet. You walked in and you fucking looked up to this shit. He's like, bro, I see no gods up here, only me.
Yeah, but historically the French were little people too. Like 6 foot he was like a mutant compared to his normal people. So he was the outsider. He wasn't the norm. Most of his people were about the same size, which is hilarious. We all know.
Worship him.
We love Charlemagne.
A talking tree.
Fantastic man. He is beautiful.
I don't think that's Charlemagne. I think you got the wrong fucking image.
What do you mean? That's Charlemagne the God.
I guess it's close enough, but where's his crown? You gotta give him a little crown. Maybe a scepter.
He gives himself his own crown on the regular, alright? We don't have to give him one. He has one.
If we planned ahead a little more, I could have easily given him a little crown and MS Paint. You should give me that for a moment.
That's ridiculous. So
I'm a grower, not a shower. AJ is a white law.
I don't think you're allowed to say that. Don't say that. So
just call me the French in the pants.
We got these boys here. Essentially the same kind of thing that the Saxons would have been wearing. Very basic armor. Not really any armor at all. Just a lot of cloth, maybe a shield, perhaps iron or steel at the time, spear, and regularly axes. Nothing special. Nothing special at all. Typical peasant, right.
Filthy fucking peasant, you know.
And these poor bastards, trying to protect their cosmic stick, were going up against people who were wearing actual armor, which, that is an unfortunate PvP situation.
These motherfuckers fighting the Imperium with sticks and rocks.
Incredibly unlikely that they're going to be able to take over any kind of force that's rocking this, especially considering at the time they were living in little mud huts, just hanging out in thatch roof buildings like this one here. You got your oh man,
they're literally peasants not taken in by the king. They're living on their own, so they didn't really have kings to answer to. So there was no like growing economy, no like stone buildings or any of that shit. So it was like stucco and hay or what the fuck other else.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I want to go back. Fuck it. Uncle Teddy K was right. We should return to Monkey. Let's go back to being in our thatch roofs. We can worship our sky stick and be happy.
It was a beautiful, simple life, but Charlemagne was like, no. Stone buildings. You gotta worship the same fucking club that we're in. Because if you're not in the club, it's not cool. You gotta be the cool kids club guy. Then he killed them all. But we're getting there.
To be fair, they gave him a pretty good reason to kill them all. I mean, they were on some guerrilla warfare nonsense, just openly rebelling against him at every turn that they possibly could.
That was only after Charlemagne destroyed the Irminsul.
Well,
Up
maybe
until
they
that point,
shouldn't have
the
been worshiping
Saxons
a stupid stick to begin with. These filthy pagans
But-
brought it upon themselves.
It connected them to the other gods like Thor and what the fuck was the other one?
We
Or-
just
or
went over the
something with a
size of the
W.
stick. It didn't connect them to anything. You couldn't have
But
dropped that
they-
stick
but they-
across
their
a small
brains-
river and made it to the other side. It was itty bitty.
Small brains, small minds.
Blessed is the mind too small to question.
I can relate. I can totally relate.
So, 772 AD is when the conflict kicks off. And it says here that Charlemagne destroyed the Irminsul in 776, which means he spent 4 years dealing with these filthy mud people before he decided he was tired of them not joining the Chad Christians of the era, which
You can't
is a
call
long
them
time.
Filthy mud people.
They were filthy mud people. Look at this hut. That has a dirt floor. They slept on dirt. They were filthy mud
Their
people.
flavor was robust, all right.
Imagine the smell. The only thing these guys are smoking is themselves. They ain't got no chimney stack. Look at that shit.
The Saxons and Norsemen in general were really like pioneers of taking care of themselves and washing, bathing, grooming themselves.
Yeah, but don't the
So I don't know,
Norsemen
they'd be smelly,
come
honestly.
from the Saxons eventually?
Yeah.
Isn't this essentially
they're-
like a Greek and Roman situation where the Greeks pioneered the religious, what do you call it, hierarchy, and then the Romans basically made it a little bit better by giving them actual names?
Yeah, but these people will be, I imagine, pretty clean for living in dirt.
Brother, it was
Possibly
the
consider the people who live in
700s.
cities.
The nobody was pretty clean at this point. In fact, there was a historical account of a king in the early centuries who they made fun of him because he actually did bathe at least once a month.
Well, look at this guy. He's got clean pressed clothing. I mean,
Oh, come on.
It's a
This is
really
a
old
recreation.
picture,
Get
but
outta
he's not
here.
even covered in. No, it's not.
Don't
He's
talk
totally
like that.
uncovered since 767. He's a clean fellow, but I will not allow you to disparage him.
I can't believe how high fidelity the cameras were back then. What were we
had to go
doing
back
in the
to monkeys.
90s?
Yeah, no, the Irminsul was a place of worship for these fucking people. Living in the fucking dirt, constantly dying for diseases before they hit fucking 20 years old. Nothing really to live for it except for pain. So they literally turned this fucking big stick, and they're like, yo, gods that be, make my life not so shit when I die, please.
Bro,
And then they put carvings into it, and they started worshiping it, and that's the story of the Irminsul. Basically, they put all their belief and all their trust and all their love into this fucking stick. Their futures together,
wait.
wrapped in twine. What?
Wait. You think that they put all their love into this? That's it?
Yeah.
That's love?
Well, not the people on the fucking ladders. Clearly, they're not fans of love. They're tearing down love. This is a hate crime. But
All of history is a
It
hate
literally-
crime. That's a poor judge.
Saxons-
Bad metric.
the Saxons literally believed that it connected them to their gods, and to be with the stick was to be more holy, more divine, one of the gods, and blah blah. But then Charlemagne, motherfucking God King himself, he's like, I don't like how those people aren't playing along with us. You either get in line, you live in the fucking brick houses, you fucking pay your taxes, or we're gonna take it down. And they're like, nah, we're a nomad life, basically. We live alone. We don't need no fucking kings or bullshit like that. And Charlemagne walked in with some fucking axes, and he hacked him down. But then his people, they're like, no. That's not how it actually happened. He prayed to this guy, and God sent a gigantic fucking tidal wave of water to downpour upon the fucking Irminsul, and it destroyed it. And it also swamped the area that prevented people from living there. I didn't see an image of that,
Based on the
but I
historical
did see proof that they
accounts,
lived in mud huts.
they chopped that sucker up into tiny little pieces, and they used it as the kindling that it actually was. The Saxons were a bunch of dirt worshipping idiots. Their main god's name was Woden, he was a fool. Like, you add one word and all of a sudden it becomes wooden, and then it all makes sense that they worship the cosmic stick. Look at this man,
Which is funny
by
because
comparison, okay? Look at this regal fella. I can understand why so many people followed him over a bunch of dirty mud people.
This is totally Count Dooku.
He do be looking like he's about to start talking to me about trade situations.
I mean, he was a Jedi at first, right? Then eventually became a Sith Lord. So he's the good guy, but also the bad guy. He's not the hero we need, but the hero we deserve, kind of.
Some historians and archaeologists suggest that the Irminsul could have been a tree rather than just a stick that they had carved in. So essentially, you just got a bunch of filthy peasants who worshipped Yggdrasil from Timu.
It keeps you warm, but only once when you burn it.
Truly a miracle. I was warm one night in the winter.
It warms my soul, but only momentarily.
They weren't actually carving their stories into it. All they were doing was chipping out a little bit of kindling here and there.
You know what? That actually makes sense. What if all the jibber jabber on the fucking... What if the jibber jabber on the stick wasn't, actual stories, but things that people translated as stories? Because when you hack away something, eventually it's going to become something, right?
Well...
Is that a snake? That kind of looks like a snake. Is that Jormungandr? Yo, that looks like a fucking hammer. Bro, we got the story of Thor right here. Like, no, I'm just trying to keep warm. Please, Slim Jim.
Filthy mud people love big hammer-wielding fat man. Understandable. I also love him. I genuinely, the more we looked into this, the more it just blows my mind how silly some of these things are. Like, legitimately, the size comparison from all of the actual accounts, at absolute highest, they think that it was probably somewhere around 22 to 26 feet tall. That's not that tall at all. That's not, like, godly. You could fall off of that and likely be okay. And I have a hard time believing anybody could worship something that you could accidentally slip and fall off of and be chill. And believing, because the pagans are so funny. They take everything so literally. These fools talk about in the historical accounts how they believed that it genuinely held the world up. And that's so disappointing to take in. That's like finding out that historically people actually did believe that the world was flat. It bothers me. It bothers me to think that we come from such humble beginnings. And then I have to consider that we never really left them. Because we still have those humble people here trying to tell me today that the earth is flat. Which is fantastic.
Their brains are flat. Their brains are flat.
Their brains are flat. I am among the people with the smooth and cute brains.
No worries, no concerns. It's a beautiful life, an innocent life.
Oh, God damn it. I wish I had saved the image of the farmer.
I wish I wasn't plagued with so much thought.
It's not a glamorous life, but it's an honest one.
Gotta respect it to some degree.
The war takes place between 772 and 804, which, honestly, when I started looking into that really surprises me. That means that for decades, this, like, clearly technologically and societally superior force struggled trying to, put down these mud people. Yeah.
They couldn't kill the dirt farmers for 30 years.
For 30 years, yeah.
To be fair, Charlemagne left for like 2 years into a different campaign to bring other people to knee. And so he wasn't really there. And while he was away, after he had destroyed the Irminsul, the fucking Saxons rolled in and they started just killing priests left and right and wondering why things are going bad and getting worse. And they just kept doing it.
With as many historical accounts of guerrilla warfare like that being so successful, it just absolutely blows my mind that today in the modern era, we're still like, What do you mean a bunch of people with rocks are shooting and, killing these superior fighting forces? It's been happening the whole time. This literally isn't new at all.
Just get the bows and the swords. Sir, we can't find them. They're so small.
They're so small.
They get in and out like a bunch of goblins.
From 772 to 785, we have them fighting against the Saxons in, again, plate armor against like cloth wearing, like homespun wearing peasants. Just absolutely blows my mind. And it's in 782 that Widukind, I'm not going to pronounce any of these names properly because this is a dead language and it deserves to be. Widukind ambushes and defeats a Frankish army, and in response, Charlemagne ordered his infamous massacre of Verdun, where 4,500 captured Saxons were beheaded in a single day. I don't know what the fuck they were worshipping a stick. How the fuck are there more than 4,500 of them in one place worshipping a stick? The madness of crowds is real. That's there had to be like, oh dude.
You're breaking it down too much. It's more about representation. It represents their connection to their god, and when they severed that,
for sure,
absolutely ballistic.
That's very philosophical. I get that you want to think
it's all philosophical
because I know you appreciate the kind of like Nordic religion, but that means that one person probably saw this stick, and then he went over to his homie and he was like, "Bro, doesn't that look like so majestic?" And I'm willing to bet anything that his homie barely had 2 brain cells to rub together because he was like, yeah, wow, that is so cool. And,
yo, put some more of that little wheatgrass shit back on the fire. It made me feel real good.
There's no way that started as like a mass hysteria thing. It's not a ton of people that immediately came across it and were like, wow, this is the coolest thing we've ever seen. Because 100% there had to have been trees that were much, much larger all over the goddamn place. It's not like they were known for making churches. This wasn't just a cross behind a pew somewhere. This is a stick, a big stick that was just chilling out in an open field until one day some poor peasant man just wandered upon it while he was probably tending his farm or, moving his flock from one place to another. And all of a sudden it became one of their sacred items, something that thousands and thousands of them began to worship as if it were a personification of one of their deities who, again, just pagans, silly as fuck. Their main, I love how so many of their main gods are war gods, and then you look at the representations of them, and it's like, my war god is embodied here in this stick.
Imagine this scene like a redwood tree. God, they would have fucking died on the spot. Imagine the gods that this could connect to. If I climb it, I might actually be able to reach them.
I'm gonna touch them.
I'm gonna lick them.
I'm gonna lick them. Yeah. I can taste divinity. Fortunately for them, they got to spend several years, at least trying to fight and keep themselves from being... What was the word you used when somebody's forcibly turned over to being a Christian?
Christianization.
Christianization.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for them, they were playing against the Magnus Carlsen of Christianization. Fucking Charlemagne didn't play no goddamn games. That man was out there just converting everybody by the sword.
Dude was literally chosen to be like the God King by the Pope himself. Pope the first or the second, some bullshit like that. This guy was literally chosen by one of the strongest entities on the fucking planet to lead them. And oh boy, did he. He basically said you bend the knee or you take the sword. And the Saxons were like, nah,
well,
I choose neither. He's like, no,
of them to
you
take the sword in one day.
Or you take the knee. Like, well, we don't take either. Well, alright, I'll choose for you, you fucking dirt eaters. And you fucking hacked their Immensal. And that's how we got a 30-year war. only after Charlemagne left for a different campaign, obviously, because they couldn't, fight Charlemagne.
Well, I mean, I'm looking here at the technology differences between the two different cultures at the time. Superior swords and axes. The Franks used pattern-welded swords, better than Saxon weaponry. I don't even know why it has to say that. Obviously, it was better than Saxon weaponry. They actually had a civilization to get their armor and their swords from, right?
That's the
heavy
beauty of it.
cavalry.
They're literally a chimera of different, countries fused together. They're taking all these little different fucking places and, putting people into a single spot where they can work together to build civilization. Like, say what you want about religion, bullshit, not bullshit. Regardless, it still brought a shit ton of people together to be a gigantic war force that would sweep across, the fucking planet.
Right,
That
and
would
even
forever change it.
centuries after the fall of Rome, we still have phrases like "all roads lead to Rome." Like they were genuinely just a force of change across the world from just every possible avenue of change, pulling in people and giving them time to look into the sciences and change the culture and develop new manufacturing and architect and just all kinds of being able to bring them together and allow them to flourish in different ways. But at the same time, they were doing it while simultaneously crushing and ruthlessly murdering all of the civilizations that they didn't agree with. So, you take the good with the bad.
They did a little fucky wucky sometimes, but for the most part, it came out well. I mean, we're here, aren't we?
Every now and then
I'm on
you
a
fuck
computer
around
right
and
now
find
talking
out, and
instead of
everybody you've
typing
ever
on
known
a
gets murdered.
fucking keyboard made of dirt. I'm not typing on a keyboard of dirt right now. I'm like, I got some real shit, and this is only because of, colonializing.
So
It's great.
It says
Kinda.
here under weapons and armor for the Franks, the Frankish knights were among the first to use armored horsemen in Western Europe, which means that the Saxons didn't even have a chance to like be familiar with the tactics of cavalry because again, like it says here, they were
War.
one of the first. So you like everybody thinks about things like the Civil War and onwards here in America where we started like picking off the leaders because that was an effective way to ruin the fighting force, right? Could you imagine showing up to a battle line thinking to yourself like, "Ah, yes, they are going to come across that hill and we are going to fight like men." And you get run down from the side by a bunch of dudes on armored horses with lances and spears. That's got to be
Just
the
fucking
most
metal.
demoralizing thing. And they put up with that for 30 fucking years. Oh, that's crazy.
We're gonna walk onto the field with a bunch of wooden sticks wrapped in leather armor from the boars that we ate last night.
Right,
We're gonna fight to the death. And then here comes these fucking people clad in fucking iron and steel with fucking swords and fucking bastard swords and armor. Yeah.
This leather meant to
I guess I'll
protect
die
me
then.
from the weapons of my enemy is still wet from my kill that I ate last night. They were, at the same time, they were wearing mail armor and helmets. Now, of course, I'll bet anything. Let me look through here real quick that the Saxons at that time also had helmets. Yeah, they're also rocking leather and mail armor, so that's not as much of a big deal. But here's the one that really strikes me. The Franks had siege weapons. I don't think.
Ballistas?
Yeah. Frankish engineers built catapults, battering rams, and wooden palisades.
Well, how else were they going to bring their freedoms to everyone else?
I'm going to spread the word and love of God from this catapult.
They literally tried knocking on the door, and they said, "Leave me alone." And he said,
"What?
No.
The Saxons didn't have giant walls. They were basically like a low-tier nomadic tribe at that point. They were so many turns behind the Franks in the game of civilization. These boys are barely climbing out of the mud. Meanwhile, the Franks had giant cathedrals that are still standing today. Let me pull one of those up because this is just absolutely ridiculous.
It's spiritual and metaphorical. I meant more like the image soul. It's kind of like a door. Whenever he destroyed it, he let himself in.
We still have Charlemagne's castle today. It's still standing.
Look at that sexy beast.
Not only is it sexy, but it's sturdy. I don't care how many mud people you throw at that. They're not getting in. That's doom. There's no victory there for them. That's what I keep going back to. It survived World War II. Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. But I just keep thinking about that as like 30 years. 30 years. That's an entire generation. That means when they started fighting and they took down the cosmic stick, the Immersul, at that point, there was likely born children, right? And those children's entire lives knew nothing but the battle against the Franks, that they were losing. There was
30
hardly
fucking years
any
of war.
positiveness there.
Literally 30 fucking years of war.
30 years
Imagine,
of
like,
war.
this is like 778 too, so these people, they had really short lifespans, so it could be like, 2 family lines right there.
Yeah. Whole generations
Yeah.
lived and died while the Franks were out there just trolling them on the battlefield, essentially. Absolute insanity. I genuinely can't believe that some of these old school conflicts lasted as long as they did. It blows my mind. And then people talk about modern conflicts. They're like, oh, that one lasted 10 years. That was a long time. Was it? Because there's several wars in history where it lasted hundreds of years. Like, many generations lived and died before they find. There's Scottish conflicts that went on about stupid petty things for like 300 years, where families were fighting over ridiculous things like a cow. Not a fleet of cows, not like enough to change your life, just one single cow. And they fought for hundreds of years about it. Just
This
petty
fucking guy,
bastards, dude. The world is built by petty bastards.
this fucking guy conquered Lombardia in Italy in 774, and then 30 years of fucking fighting the Saxons, and then in a span of 20 years, he conquered Bavaria and Spain. It's like, Jesus Christ. Dude conquered all these other places, but it's Saxony that caused him so much trouble.
It's always the guerrilla fighters, man. If we learned nothing from Vietnam, we learned that the guerrilla fighters are much more effective force than they should be. And I'm surprised it took us that long to learn it, seeing as that's how we started our nation, by doing that to the British. It says, the Frankish army was one of the most advanced military forces of its time, thanks to Charlemagne's reforms. He had a manorial system. Lords controlled land and peasants worked it in exchange for protection. He was one of the first people to implement the coin-based economy, which is hilariously effective. Have you ever really paid attention to that?
Not entirely, no.
Okay,
You're
so
the history buff. I'm here to laugh.
there was a period of time where essentially peasants were basically like they were equipment, like they were just owned property, right?
Yep.
And then somebody came up with the bright idea. I'd have to look up the name specifically, but they came up with the bright idea to use something called the free peasantry system, where back in the day, when peasants were property, a lot of warfare was done by the noble class. It was like the aristocrats that would join the military, and they would go out and they would do conquering and battle and all that, right? And then when we switched over to the free peasantry system, somebody started implementing coins as a currency, right? And so they would bring in the peasant children and the boys, obviously, and they would conscript them into their armies, and they would make sure that they were paid like a decent wage so that they could use those coins to purchase other things. And what would happen essentially is they used the resources on their land as the currency, and then they would send the free peasant armies out to conquer other lands, and then they would bring in more currency. And as this continues throughout centuries of history, we end up today where we're basically still using the exact same system. Nothing's changed in several centuries. We're like today, you go to the military if you have hardly anything else going on, and they pay you a livable wage so that you can use that money to be a part of the economy and go out there and fight the wars for what is essentially still the aristocratic class. It's mind-blowing when you think about it like that. That
Still really hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, that means like 1500 years ago somebody perfected this, and now today we're defending it and we're like, haha, my freedoms. No, fool. No, you're being
We
done.
are the peasants.
We are the
We
peasants.
Are the peasants.
We are the peasants. That's the worst part about all the conversations that people have in modern society about things that separate us, like races, genders, sexualities, things like that. Historically, the only thing that's ever really separated us was class, and it's the only thing that realistically still separates us today. And it drives me crazy that nobody sees it, because you can look back to the 700s where we're talking about the Immersul being put down and the Saxons going to war against the Franks, and it's essentially still the exact same system that keeps people separated by their classes. I mean, it says right here, the lords controlled land, and peasants worked in exchange for protection. Oh.
Protection from what? From what they're going to do to them if it doesn't let them do it.
Exactly.
You will work the fields, and we will protect you if you work in them. But you will work them.
But at least, they let them organize and come up with some new developments, like the advanced plows, for instance. I mean, if you just make a heavier plow, you can dig a little deeper and you can bury better crops. Get out there, peasant.
An advanced plow.
I love that.
It actually sounds very handy, yeah.
Just a heavier plow?
Bow and shovel. Yeah.
I mean,
sounds really helpful.
Yeah, but it just is heavier. Like, it's not like they actually developed some new system for farming. They're like, yeah, just drag this heavier thing behind you. Get it done. God, so many people must have died doing that.
It saved more time. Usually they would be pulled by horses and mules and shit like that, so it wasn't typically pulled by human beings, but animals that they had on their property.
They had fortified towns.
I mean, not their property. I mean, the king's property. That's my bad.
Yeah, like Wester said in chat.
You
just take the plow, you add big rock.
I worship big stick, best stick ever. I worship big rock, it makes life easier.
Wait, we're not talking about the Scots and the Rock of Destiny today. We'll get there. Don't get ahead of yourself. We're on the stick right now. We'll talk about the rock at a later date.
Isn't that an actual thing?
Yeah. I don't want to get into it because it's genuinely like a good fucking. It's a whole nother thing. All right, we've got like another half hour talking about the stick and these two factions. We'll talk about that one later. We'll do that later.
It's literally called the Stone of Destiny.
The Stone of Stop talking about it. We'll get there. Okay, hold your horses.
I'm curious right now, not later.
No.
All right. Oblong block of red sandstone.
Where's it at? Let me look through my notes real quick. So
this is a symbol of Scottish monarchy and British rule.
Stop! Don't look at it. We'll talk about it later. It's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna love it. Close that tab.
All right. I'm closing it. God damn it.
So
it's like the dumbest shit ever.
777 to 785. One of the most legendary Saxon leaders was Widukind, who became the face of the Saxon resistance. In 777 AD, Charlemagne held an assembly at Paderborn, where many Saxon leaders surrendered and converted to Christianity because they're a bunch of fucking beta quitters and they didn't stand up for their gods, non-base chads. Widukind, however, refused and fled to Denmark, gathering support from the other pagan Germanic tribes, which is, I assume, where we get to a point that the Vikings start to be developed. Because, again, it seems to me as if this is a bit of a Greek and Roman situation, where they just took their religion over there and they adapted it to the area and came up with a new pantheon.
The violence is escalating.
The violence is escalating. They went from being dirty mud people to learning how to make boats, and all of a sudden they were a force to be reckoned with.
Which is actually pretty fucking cool. It's really fucking cool.
It is definitely.
They were forced to innovate in order to survive. And yeah.
I have
got a lot of really cool stories from it.
I actually have the gods in here. Let me find them real quick because this is where I started to see the comparison between like the Greeks and the Romans. So Woden is the equivalent to the Norse Odin, which they just took a letter off and he was a whole nother god. I mean, at least with the Greeks, it was like Jupiter, and then for the Romans, it was Zeus. Whatever. Again, this is just like Norse religion from Timu. All of this seems like discounted version. Thunor, or Donar, is the equivalent to the Norse Thor. He was the god of thunder, storms, strength, and often associated with warriors and protection. Tuaz, I'm so bad at pronouncing these things. They're not English. It's not my fault. You have a bad religion, bad names. Equivalent to the Norse Tyr, a god of war and justice, often invoked before battle. I bet they invoked him quite a lot before they took away their little cosmic stick. Then you have Frigg, who eventually
Like
becomes Freya, yeah, the wife of Woden, associated with marriage, fertility, and fate. I tried reading them while drunk. Yeah, that genuinely that would
Bro,
probably help. Maybe next time
we
we're
should do
going
the
to
Stone
talk
of
about things
Destiny.
like the
Yeah.
Germanic tribes. We should bring in one of our friends from Europe and they can pronounce them appropriately. I'll just keep
If we're talking about Stone of Destiny, we gotta get fucking shit faced.
keep Elfie in the channel and have her muted and then unmute her every now and then so she can say one of these goddamn names. Ostara, who is the goddess of spring and fertility, possibly linked to modern
rabbits.
Easter traditions. No, Easter is where the rabbit hides the eggs because Jesus died for our sins. Fuck those
He hides the
pagans,
eggs
they're
in
wrong.
people's assholes. Yeah. He hides the eggs in people's assholes. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Wait, what do you mean in
That's
people's
pretty deep shit
assholes?
too. You still have it up there?
What? You're
Gotta get.
but eggs don't have a
Just see a
flared
doctor, bro.
base.
Well, I guess it's lost then. Carry on.
Oh no, the TikTok doctor is going to be so disappointed in me. Saxa notions of fate, which is supposed to be similar to the weird, which is like the Norse idea of destiny, and the Norns. Like the Norse, the Saxons believed in weird or fate, and the goddesses called the Norns controlling destiny. Just super fun.
Funny. Goddesses of Fate, which is more Greek shit. Hilariously.
Yeah, isn't it?
It is.
A
Yeah,
lot of
Goddesses
these
of Fate.
pagans
Yeah.
like had very, very similar beliefs, and for some reason they were all ruled over by war gods at the head of their pantheon.
That's literally every fucking religion on the fucking planet. It all comes from like Samaria. Like every single fucking one of them.
Well, you know what? Jesus forgives, which is why he's the best.
Yeah, he also, bro, he's also inspired by Sumerian gods and fucking tales.
Don't care.
It's all connected.
Don't care.
It's all connected. It's all a
Don't
circle.
care. Long-haired brown man is my savior. Okay, that's all that matters.
I bet he's white too. Pale as a fucking ghost.
I hate that.
Because he is one.
I hate the
Because he
depictions
is a
of
ghost.
white Jesus. That's so stupid. The oldest Bible known to man is the one from Ethiopia, but for sure, no, definitely, we're gonna pretend like the savior is, a white man, 100% white, blonde hair, blue eyes, just like the Nazis would have wanted. Okay.
He is the Aryan.
Unfortunate for them, that is very much not true. What do you mean more relatable? You realize that white people are like a small percentage of the world's population, right? Everybody else, I think we're less than 10% worldwide. So for more than 90% of the world's population, more relatable is one of the many shades of brown. Why it makes us feel better. Yeah, okay. That's just so stupid. I hate that. In 804 AD, Charlemagne had forcibly converted the Saxons to Christianity. Those who refused faced execution, which is dope. That means that man knew how to finish a battle. Instead of letting them survive and continue to fight them in the woods like a bunch of goddamn heathens, he decided that he was done with that, and he put him to the sword. Pagan rituals, including worship of Immersul, were outlawed, and churches were built over their former sacred sites, which is probably the most metal thing I've ever heard. You know that place you used to go to worship your silly little gods? Now you're going to go there and you're going to worship my god.
We destroyed your god, and now we're building our god on top of it.
Know your place, worm.
You mean peasant?
Oh, right.
Literally.
I was feeling a little bit of too much connection to the right people. Though Saxon paganism was eradicated, elements of their culture and gods survived in folklore and Christianized traditions, which is the right way to handle it. Everybody who isn't one of us gets to be a reason why we celebrate, so that we can remember how they became one of us. I love that about most of our holidays. Christmas, Easter, it's so much fun. We just take it, we bastardize it, and we turn it into a commercialized nonsense. I love
Don't
that.
forget to spend money. Put up the lights. Please spend more money.
Strip the soul straight out of it, turn it into a reason to spend money.
Speaking of stripping the soul, Valentine's Day's coming up, and I'm getting a lot of fucking candy. The trick is to wait a day after so you get it on sale.
See, you're a little bit more like me every day. You would have made a great Jew.
I might be more Jewish than you think.
Well, I thought none, so any is more than I thought.
I am of fresh French descent. Fresh French descent.
Christianity versus paganism. One of the primary reasons for the Saxon Wars was Charlemagne's aggressive Christianization campaign. The Saxons were staunchly pagan, worshipping gods like Woden, Thunor, and Ti, thank God it's Wednesday. Their spiritual practices, such as worship of the Immersul, were deeply embedded in their culture. Not that deep. Didn't take them very long to take it out. Didn't really hold much of anything up, it turns out. Seems like a lot of religion, it was just a bunch of hot air.
Why do you think it was just a stick and not a bunch of sticks?
Well, because they have a word for a bunch of sticks, but we're not allowed to say it.
Oh. but they're mighty, all right?
The mighty bundle. Oh, man. I love... What in the world is this name? The war officially began when Charlemagne invaded Saxon territory and destroyed the Immersul, a sacred Saxon religious pillar near Eresburg. It's so funny how through the many, I have a list of different, like, verified historical accounts of this thing. And in some of them, it literally does say stick, which is why I keep saying stick. And in some of them, it says pillar. In some of them, it says tree. And so nobody could agree after the fact what the hell this thing was, which means it must have been truly destroyed. Like, they really got rid of this thing. There was no going back. No.
They live in the fucking forest, and when you hack a fucking stick with a fucking axe, it's just going to become part of the forest.
Right. If my religious monument falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, do my gods still die?
No.
It says here, the goat v.
They lost, and that's
pillar
why they had to create new ones like Odin and Thor. It all makes sense now. My eyes are open. You know what the funny part is, bro? Okay, so the fucking Norse gods, Vili, Ve, and Odin, they're literally fucking walking down this goddamn beach, and they see some just trees laying down. Like, you know what? Let's turn these trees into people, and that's how humans were made. Ask an Umbella, but yeah, it's come full circle.
Maybe
they found the tree, and they turned it into us.
Mythology.
Are we in the tree? Are we the tree?
No, we're not the tree. Because the Norse gods are essentially the Saxon gods, and somebody said, "Can I copy your homework?" And the Saxon said, "Sure, just change it a little bit so no one else can tell." Those names are so incredibly similar. In fact,
Odin.
Right, yeah, barely even a syllable off. Absolute ridiculous.
Like, Frigg. There's literally a character called Frigg. Freya.
They worshipped a wooden column, which in their language is called Immersul, erected in open air, representing the universal support of all things. Even the people in the 9th century who talked about it thought it was absolutely ridiculous.
It's fucking beautiful that, being connected with everything around them because their life is absolutely fucking dog shit.
Cathedrals that lasted several centuries, and they were like brick and mortar places that we can go to today to see how these things played out. That is stupid. Your whole civilization is based around a stick that's just going to get weathered. And, and that's another thing that nobody really talks about in these annals that I'm looking through. How long could it have possibly been there?
What about Notre Dame? Notre Dame fucking got burnt to a crisp.
For sure, definitely. Some of those places end up going away. But nobody says that this was a long-lasting thing. There's no way that this thing was there for all that long. It was. They fought for 30 years after Charlemagne destroyed it. How long were they worshipping it beforehand? It wasn't several centuries. What was it, like 20 years? It must have been close to rotting its way down anyway. They were carving at it the whole time. They weren't lacquering the goddamn thing. Gods,
Religions were
my
literally
bad,
left and
pagans.
right at every fucking corner. There was a new religion every fucking week.
Every week, right?
And they just happened to land on the one that, worshipped a stick. So, it could have been anything else. It could have been a rock. Like the Rock of Destiny!
Like the Stone of Destiny. Pagans be like, oh, look at it. Look at it. Woo, would you look at it?
This is literally how Odin created human beings.
Grandpa, is that you?
By the runes, I create you.
I love it. I love it so much. The damn thing wasn't pressure treated. It wasn't lacquered. It was barely special. And they fought for 30 years about it.
It was literally buried in the fucking ground.
Right, yeah.
That's just gonna rot real fucking fast. You ever put a stick in dirt?
That's pretty widely agreed upon, too, through the information that I've been looking through. Like, a couple of accounts say that it was a tree, right? But almost everybody else says that it was just a pillar that was buried in the ground. And I've done construction. That's not gonna last very long, homie. Like, your deck's fucked.
They're thinking about the now, not the future. Which is funny, because all they can really think about is the future that they're never going to be in, because they're going to die soon.
Yeah. How old's your grandfather? 35. He's probably going to be gone soon.
23.
23. Oh, no. The implications are not good.
These are old fucking times, bro.
Nope. I can't make that joke. We're on Twitch. Can't do it.
You were lucky to see, your fucking teens.
It says that the Immersul was compared to the Goat pillar in Sweden, a standing stone believed to have had religious importance. Why the fuck do they keep stacked? Brother, I can balance things too. It's not that religious of an experience. I don't quite understand. The Goat pillar stands about 3 meters tall, which is roughly 10 feet. And it says it's also compared to the pillar of Jupiter. Again, the pillars. So many pillars. So many, these goddamn pagans, dude. They saw two things stacked together. The world and a stick, a couple of rocks, a fucking, a little pillar of stone.
Wait, that's the other one.
A burning bush. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Where did this come from? Magic. The pillar of Jupiter
weird how that just happens in nature.
Yeah, it's weird. The river keeps moving, and somehow these 3 stones were stacked together perfectly. The pillar of Jupiter in Germany, which may have inspired Christian depictions of the Immersul, often stood between 3 to 5. Wait a minute. Hold on. Charlemagne himself was there to destroy the Immersul, right?
Yes.
And this historic account says that a completely different pillar located in Germany is what inspired the Christian descriptions of the Immersul. Why?
Yeah, so Charlemagne learned of the Irminsul, and he knew that the Saxons wouldn't bend the fucking knee, and he didn't want to kill them just outright because there was a lot of them, and he wanted them to join his flock. Basically, the dude rolled up, and on the Saxons' account, they used axes to destroy it, but on Charlemagne's and his men's account, he called to the sky, and God sent a giant torrent that destroyed the Irminsul and flooded the area, preventing the Saxons from rebuilding.
Well,
literally water against this thing beat it to fucking death.
If we're gonna be totally honest, I'm more willing to believe Chad Christian's description of what happened than I am Mud Person Beta Cucks.
Use axes? Giant deluge.
Hey, not that long beforehand, Moses split the Red Sea, so God obviously has an affinity for water magic, okay?
Moses had water magic. Wait, was Charlemagne Moses the whole time? Look at that fucking beard.
Look at that majestic-ass beard. Ah. I'm going to go back in my lineage and find the little bit of French inside of me and try and pull forth that majestic beard-growing technique, because somehow it got lost on me. 30 years old, I still got this scraggly red nonsense.
Same. My brother got all the beard genes.
The average Saxon man in the early medieval period was about 165 to 170 centimeters, which totally explains why they thought a 10-foot tall pillar of balanced shit was so majestic. 5'5", 5'7", anything above 6 feet is godly. Which, maybe that's why they were so upset with Charlemagne himself being a 6-foot Chad.
What is a pile of sand but stacked rocks?
The dunes are a religious experience.
It's a miracle.
All the conflict in the Middle East makes a little more sense now that we put it into perspective of stacking rocks. Oh, dude, we got to go through that at some point. That'll be absolutely fantastic.
Pyramids?
Not just the pyramids, but overall, like, I can't get into it yet. We'll talk about it at some point. I want to talk about like Iraq and like how it's one of the first multicultural centers and how incredibly like what would you call it, original that was at the time.
Well, I lack me some edumacation sometimes, so it could be fun.
I just love that we're talking about a comparison between mud huts and built masonry stone walls. We're talking about a comparison between dudes who wore badly tuned leather armor and cloth compared to plate knight chainmail wrapped chads. It's insane.
On
Absolutely
horses. On horses. With iron spears and swords and shields.
And it doesn't even just say cavalry. It says heavy cavalry. They weren't playing no fucking games.
Is that a wooden spear? You're fucking cute.
Run them down, boys. Oh my god, dude. Christians used to be so metal. What happened to us? Where did we go wrong? It's not the teachings of Christ, because that would have been a thing already at this point. We got soft, brother. Not long after this Immersul thing, the Crusades happen, which we should totally talk about that at some point, because that's a whole, like, can of worms.
I don't know very much about it.
Ooh, you're going to enjoy learning about it. Deus Vult, brother.
Wasn't the Baphomet idol involved in some of that shit, the Crusades?
Not really. I mean, mostly it was just like
Templar.
One faction took Jerusalem and the other faction was like, nah, we're going to kill you and everybody you know, and we're taking it back. It's super, super metal. It's just back and forth changing hands of like a single area.
As long as it's ridiculous and funny, I might be interested.
And it almost always has something to do with the Jews, man. The hatred for the Jews goes so far back. They put them in a position where at one point they were only allowed to work as merchants, right? And then just before the Crusades start, they decide, well, we're going to need to fund this war somehow, but we owe all this money to these people who we've made it impossible for them to do anything except for handle money. So obviously it's their fault that we don't have the money we need to go and prosecute this war that we're interested in. So we're going to have to kill the Jews. And that happens several times throughout history, where they put them in a position.
Guys, these people own all the money. It's like,
yeah,
you literally made them the only people that could.
You did this to yourself.
Thing they can do.
It's straight up just Pokemon.
Retard.
The fucking Christians hurt themselves in their own confusion.
It's not because they're Jews. It's because of you.
You know what? The thing that really blows my mind, after 30 years of war, it says here, in 804 AD, after crushing the last major Saxon uprising, Charlemagne deported over 10,000 Saxons and resettled them in Frankish lands to prevent future revolts. These people must have been fucking the whole time. He straight murdered 4,500 of them in one go. How the hell were there 10,000 more of them there that he could move around?
Maybe they're more agreeable people that took the knee.
Not really. I mean, it says that the
like,
final rebellion
come
was
after that,
put
then,
down.
You know? It's like, whence cometh Norse if they weren't allowed to practice their religion?
I'm going to look that up right now, actually.
Yeah, because there was 10,000 people that survived, and Charlemagne relocated them, and the whole point of it was to have everyone be a Christian so that they could work together and slaughter everyone else who wasn't Christian that wouldn't fucking bend the knee. And if that was the case, then how the fuck did we get Norse religion that comes from the Saxon beliefs? Because if they weren't practicing their religion and they were Christian, then how would it carry over into Norse?
The Viking Age doesn't start until the 8th to the 11th century. So yeah, it is pretty much exactly like we thought it was. Like the Saxons, wow, that means Charlemagne's literally the reason why I like not work and ridiculous nonsense like comic books involving Thor. He pushed them up and out of their land and made them move to the Danish region, and then that happens in the 7th century, and then in the 8th century they become the Vikings. Early Germanic tribes worshipped nature spirits, sun and fertility gods, and performed sacrifices. Metal, let's go.
Well, so good thing Charlemagne happened then, because I needed my Thor comics.
I needed my Thor comics, right? What would I do without Odin's son?
I need to see what happens with Black Winter and Thor. Does Beta Ray Bill come back? Shit. God's bless Charlemagne.
I'm so
in the
glad
great Holy
all
Sea
of
Empire.
those thousands of people were put to the sword so that I could read stories about the Stormbreaker.
Bro. For real, though. For real. Stories inspire people. So.
It's too bad that these stories don't, because they got rid of their sacred artifacts. You think there's anybody still walking around LARPing about the Immersul?
Yeah, definitely. There are people who wear necklaces.
That's crazy. What kind of necklace could you possibly wear? What do you do? Just pick a stick up off the ground and tie
It's
some
literally a stick.
Twine around it?
It's literally twine in a stick.
Show it to me.
A stick.
Show it to me. I want to see a picture of this.
Oh, they're like made of like pewter and shit now, bro. Just type in Immensil necklace. It's just a fucking tree. Literally fucking a tree. But it's not Yggdrasil, which you think is a bit blasphemy, since Yggdrasil is what connects everything together in the Norse religion, and not the Irminsul, because Irminsul is Saxon.
Yeah, but it seems to me that the Saxons worshipped Immersul, right? And then Charlemagne comes in, he takes it down, he wipes out their religion, and then they transition up in the 8th century to being the Vikings up there. And a few of them kind of recalled that situation back in the day with Charlemagne and their special cosmic stick, right? And they were like, hey, so we got to worship something. Maybe a tree this time. Let's like give it actual roots.
Whoa, tree!
Instead of just a stick that we're really into, how about we give it like a defender? Like a big scary snake that like hangs out around the base of it. Yeah, nobody will want to fuck with a giant tree that has a big scary snake underneath it. And then we could put like a defender up in the top too. How about a dickhead squirrel who asks questions and throws acorns at people when they're being a little too nosy around our sacred tree?
That's cool as fuck. I love this shit. It's a beautiful story. It's so wild that you could never imagine something like this unless you're on a lot of fucking drugs.
A copious amount of hallucinogens.
It's great. I love the fantasy of it. It's fucking beautiful, the imagination that it takes to go into something like this. And they wholeheartedly believed in it too, which I thought that was pretty cool. It gave their lives meaning, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Did Woden do the same thing that Odin did, where he tied himself up to a tree and essentially crucified himself and just sat there starving?
Odin did that, bro. Ohar he hung for 9 nights, and the runes came to him.
And then he gave his eyes for the wisdom.
Yeah, like the reason why they even have magic, which is called runes, is literally word. Word is magic in Norse mythology. Literally, literally. Like, magic still exists at the same time, but to speak is to be magical. To be able to communicate is magical.
That's so dumb.
The dude impaled himself against the world tree, and through him impaling himself, that's how knowledge came to him, and he was, he was given runes in his mind through Yggdrasil.
I think the only reason we take Norse religion more seriously than we take the Saxon religion is because he impaled himself against the world tree instead of impaling himself against the world stick.
Like it's that'll be a little bit difficult. Yeah, no, I think it's amazing. It's fantastical.
Oh, okay. That's about an hour talking about the cosmic stick. I think we got this one, Chief.
All right.
Ugh.
But we need to talk about the story of Thor lifting a giant cat that was actually Jormungandr transformed. That one's really cool.
On
The
another
one where...
day. On another day. We'll talk about the evolved version. The Pokemon evolution of Saxon religion on another story. Yeah. We'll do the Rocket of Destiny as well. Oh my god, dude. I can't wait to tell you about the Rocket of Destiny.
I've never heard that.
It's... okay.
I'm trying so hard not to learn about it.
I want to go into it right now because it's such a wild story, but we'll save it. We'll save it. We'll do another one. I've got tomorrow off as well. We can do another hour of recording tomorrow.
Alright, sounds good, man.
Alright, for now then, we're gonna call this one good. Alright.
I love you.
I love you too.